A man gets caught in a series of hallways that repeat over and over inside a subway station. But if he follows the rules, he might just be able to escape. As is becoming more frequent, this one is a video game adaptation, so join us as we discuss Exit 8. Welcome everyone to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Tim.
Wait, was that an anomaly? Do I need to turn around?
I almost thought something went bad with the connection there. Tim did such a good job of acting his little heart out. But yes, welcome everyone. This is the horror movie podcast that we get together. We talk about horror movies. It's that simple, and still catching up on earlier 2026 movies right now. We are looking at a Japanese movie called Exit 8. Now, technically this is actually listed as a 2025 movie, but I don't know if it was out in Japan in 2025, but certainly in the West, this came out in 2026. So we're counting it as a 2026 movie for, best of lists when the time comes, purposes and all that. But yeah, so this is based on a video game, which I only heard about once I heard about the movie. It's not like I knew the video game first and then was like, oh, they're making a game out of that, or a movie out of that. I'd never heard of it.
Yeah, me either. And in fact, the only reason why I knew about this at all was because I had a friend that texted me because they're like, oh, I'm gonna go see this and then like try the game and stuff, and I was like, oh, it flew right by me. I'm guessing it must be like somewhat popular if they made a movie about it. I don't know if it's like if it has like a cult following or what, but yeah, this is one that really wasn't on my radar before.
Yeah, well, it was kind of the same with the Iron Lung movie that came out that Markiplier did, where I'd never heard of the game, and it's like, oh, a movie's coming out based on this little indie game, and it's like, oh, okay, fair enough. Here it is. Check out the review of that on the Atomic Cinema Experiment if you want to hear some extended thoughts. So yes, plug away. But yeah, so we'll start spoiler free, of course, as we always do. We'll give you a warning before we get into the spoilers, and if you're enjoying the show on YouTube, hit the like button, helps out a bunch if you do. And yeah, I'll tell you more about Patreon and bonuses and support and all that you can get at the end of the episode. So yeah, I mean, the premise of this is very simple. Man gets off the train in the subway and finds himself in a seemingly endless loop with a simple kind of puzzle / set of rules, and he kind of can't escape until he solves it. That's the movie. Like that's the premise of it. He keeps going around a few corners and finds himself in the exact same hallway that says it's leading to Exit 8, and that's it. There's obviously a few more details that we'll get into in spoilers, but that's the gist of what the movie is. If I was to compare it to anything, I'd say it's like a little cube-like in a sense. Not the exact same thing, but more just one location, kind of low budget, got a mysterious vibe. Maybe even a little bit of a Silent Hill style tone, you could call it. Oh
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I definitely was thinking about Cube when I was watching it. I also like the movies are very different, in many ways, but I do feel like this does kind of pair up with Backrooms well. Like, I feel like they're both pretty liminal, and they're both kind of playing with the idea of things just being like slightly off. So I think there's something to be said about that.
Yeah. So we've compared it to a few things there, but it's kind of its own beast, and it's got its own kind of thing. It's kind of interesting. Honestly, the thing that I'd maybe compare it to the most is actually another video game, and admittedly, there's a good chance that the video game Exit 8 might have even been inspired by this game that I'm about to bring up, and that is PT. Which is related to Silent Hill, of course, because it was the teaser to what should have turned into a Silent Hill game called Silent Hills, directed by Hideo Kojima, but it never happened because there was a whole fallout with Konami and other things. I won't get into all that, but it never happened. But that was very much a case of you kept going through this hallway in a house over and over again, but every time you did, depending if you'd made some right choices, depending on the version you got, things would change, and it was like a big sort of puzzle to figure out what you were supposed to do to keep making it changing. This felt very similar to that, which is like, hey, we're looking for anything that's different every time you go through this like corridor effectively. So it's kind of like an L shape. There's like a second part of it, but like that's effectively it.
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't automatically think of PT, but now that you bring it up, I can see like, oh yeah, it feels very inspired by it.
Yeah, we're very in that kind of wheelhouse. So obviously though, you don't need to know any of these games or even these other movies to enjoy this. This is just all comparison stuff for folk who will know these things, who can maybe get a sense of what this movie feels like and what it's going for and the vibe that it has. Because I will say that the vibe does feel like a sort of crossover between, it's kind of the mechanics of PT, but I would say the tone feels a bit closer to, say, like Cube, I would say.
Sure.
In terms of the feeling of mystery that it has. Whereas, because PT is a lot more like ghostly supernatural stuff going on. This is not, is leaning into that as PT does, but but I mean, all these comparisons are to say that there's things you can kind of bring together to say that what maybe inspired this or what inspired the video game, but it's an inventive movie at the very least because it's effectively got one repetitive set that it uses over and over again. So how does it keep that interesting? How does it keep that intriguing? So on and so on. We'll get into all that, of course. But I think we can get into the basic question here, which is, Tim, what did you think of Exit 8?
So first of all, I just want to say, like, maybe it's just because we've been watching a lot of crappier movies lately, but I was excited to check this out and also like I feel like it's been a while since we did,
because it might be good. It's the first movie in like 3 or 4 movies for us that might be good.
Yeah. But also, I think it's been a while since we did a foreign film, and I think especially Japanese horror has a soft spot in my heart. Because we definitely we're kind of growing up around that the big boom of J horror and stuff, and I feel like we don't always get like big noteworthy. Not to say this movie's like that big or anything, but we don't always get like new releases from Japan all the time. So it felt nice watching a movie like this. I will say that I think there's a lot that I like about this movie. I think I really like the premise. It's pretty simple but very fun. It almost like it is very game-like, but I think that definitely adds to it. In a way, it almost kind of feels like I was like playing with the movie too, because I'm keeping my eyes out. Yeah, because you're like trying to notice. Yeah,
you're playing along. You're looking, because it's very easy. Because I was watching this having never seen a second of the game, but after like 1 or 2 loops, I'm like, oh, I get how this game plays. Like I can imagine what playing this game is like now.
Yeah, totally. And I do think like it looks pretty well for the most part. There's some like dodgy CGI here and there, but I don't think it really like detracts from the movie too much. But just like the style of the the like subway station or whatever, hallways, whatever you want to call it, you're in. I thought it looked good, and I was actually pretty impressed. Like obviously there's ways they can like hide cuts and stuff, but a lot of times it feels like you're just following the person like in an endless loop, and so I thought it was like pretty impressive in that regard. But with all that being said, though, I don't know if I would like call this a great movie or anything. I think it's something that has a lot of interesting ideas and there's fun stuff about it. And when we get into spoilers, there'll be like more stuff that I want to talk about that I think is interesting and and whatnot. But also, like, I don't know if it fully came together for me by the end. Like there's just like some things like here and there that I'm like, well, actually, I mean, this will be like a positive. Like there were times where I was like, okay, this is interesting, but it's maybe starting to feel a little bit repetitive. And I feel like they were good. Like when that stuff would start to happen, they would maybe throw something, like it'd be like, oh, well, now we're adding this new element. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. But yeah, there's some things like, not that this necessarily needs to be like a big character piece or anything, but I find like I didn't really like the main character that much. And I don't know, like I thought it was like a little boring, and then there's some weird stuff where he's like coughing all the time that I'm like, oh, this is just like not like I don't know, it's kind of like annoy me a little bit. And then it's not like a huge part of the movie, but this kind of plot about like come to terms with like maybe being a father or whatever. Like I don't know, I kind of am like done with stories like that. Like it's a completely valid story to have, but maybe just like as a father myself, I'm like I don't really need to see people like struggling to come into terms with it. It's like just something you just gotta do, man. Just like stop worrying about it. It's gonna happen. Like you're fine. Uh, but yeah, and then there's like a few other. I don't think this is. Well, there's some other things I want to bring up, but maybe I'll wait till maybe spoilers to talk about like some slight complaints or anything. But I don't think it's a bad movie at all. I think it's actually pretty neat and interesting. I just don't think it was like a slam dunk. Like, oh my god, like make way for like the best of the year. Like, yeah, I gotta tell people about this. I was like, oh, like I think people should check it out. It's interesting, but yeah, I don't know if I was like jumping for joy by the end of it.
Yeah, I, I probably would agree with the part of like I don't know if I felt it all completely come together with its like kind of like character endings, emotional points or whatever. I don't think I disliked the main character though. I found him to be kind of perfectly reasonable. I wouldn't say I loved him, but I didn't dislike him either. Like I think he was kind of a he's indecisive. That's kind of the point of his character, and that kind of is what he is. But I think the overall vibe and the idea of the loop, which might sound repetitious, I actually really like because you're spending your time looking for changes and you're doing you're keeping a close eye on things, and some things are obvious the way they kind of change because you can sort of see some of the what they call them anomalies, right? If anything's different, it's an anomaly. Some of them you can see coming. Some of them are very subtle. Some of them are like over the top even, and some of them are small. But I think the vibe of that, especially for like the first half or so of the movie, like I was super into. I think the back half where it tries to get a little bit more into the character emotional stuff, I felt like is maybe where it started to not even do anything super wrong or anything, but just not be as like good at what it's trying to do versus how good the rest of the movie is being. Right? It wasn't quite living up to the quality of everything else, so that maybe nerfed it a little bit for me in the back third or so of the film. But I think overall I did really like the vibe of it, and I was engrossed. Like I was super into like the loop. I was super into figuring things out. I liked the eerie atmosphere. I liked that for the most part. There wasn't an enemy. There wasn't a ghost. There wasn't like a it was purely just doing the mystery of the loop. And sometimes some of the anomalies were on the spooky side, which is actually one of my one of my I'll call it a smaller complaint, but there was one or two anomalies which were very, very scary, right? And I don't mean they were scaring me, but they were very scary in terms of what they are. And all I could think was, this is obviously an anomaly. Just move. Just, like, you don't have to like, wait and see what the rest of the anomaly is. You can just go the other way. That's the whole point. You don't have to wait and find out. You don't have to see it play. You can just go.
Yeah, I actually thought that was very funny. And I had a couple of questions for you guys. That's one that I was going to bring up, where it is like, yeah, does it make it feel like a little less threatening when it's like, okay, if there is ever anything that is like intense or scary, like you can literally just turn around and go back and you're safe. Like you just have to turn a corner and Yeah,
I mean, I guess kinda, but I think most of the movie actually it's never a problem, because most of the movie it's more about just the overall creepiness of it and getting it right or wrong and the tension, and because if he gets it wrong, everything resets. He doesn't just like lose a step; he loses all of his steps and he's back at square one. So it's the psychological frustration, and I think that stuff mostly carries it. But if anything, it's the one or two times where it tries to do something proper spooky is maybe where it feels a little weak, because I'm like, well, like is stuff down here actually a threat to him? Yeah. I'm not really sure if it is, so I guess we'll find out. And obviously we can talk about what we think the whole movie means and interpretations and all that once we get into spoilers, but that's maybe where it goes more over the top, is maybe where it loses a little bit what makes it special. It also tends to be where some dodgy CG might come into it, because that's the only times that really becomes a problem. So
I will say, like, you can tell that the movie is doing its job, because whenever they would turn the corner, and basically you would know if you like failed or succeeded is, when you turn that corner and you see what level you're on. And so like if you did it correctly, then you're on like the next level, but if you failed, then you're back to zero. And I did get like a little bit of like a like I'm holding my breath when they turn the corner, and then like I'm looking for the number, and I'm like, oh, okay, like like they did good.
And sometimes as well, they wouldn't show you the number first; they just show you his reaction. And sometimes it's obvious based on his reaction, but sometimes it's a little bit like, oh, I don't know, did he lose his progress, or is he advanced? It's actually hard to tell based on this look. And so there's suspense there for sure. And it's kind of interesting because it's building its own unique version of suspense, because it's not just what every other movie does, right? Like I was saying, when it tries to do like just generic spooky stuff, but there's not a ton of that, but the one or two times it does do that is probably at its weakest, because it's effectively trying to do what another movie would do. But when it's being what's unique about this movie, it tends to be pretty engrossing. So I would call that mostly a success on overall, because I think ultimately it succeeds in what it's trying to be. But yeah, there's a few nitpicks, there's a few dings and things that kind of stop it from maybe being like an outright, this is great, this is absolutely recommended. I think some people do love it. I think some people think it's just like a bunch of, oh, you can interpret this, therefore it's art house crap kind of attitude. And I think that's very unfair. And I can totally get why some people really click with it, though, and absolutely love it. Like, I can understand that. I think there's a few things holding it back from being right on that level, but I would say it's good. Like, I would say it definitely crosses the threshold into being good.
Yeah, I mean, I still enjoyed my time with it. It's just, like you're saying, it doesn't necessarily, like, get over into great territory, which is kind of a shame, because I feel like, there's like a few tweaks here and there that you could probably easily make to,
there was a time
get there, but
in the movie where I thought it was like, there was a time when I thought, oh, if this holds up exactly as it is now, I think I'm going to be thinking it's great. And then there's like I say, those few things that maybe dip it down a little bit. I think the opening is fantastic. I think because the opening shot, which lasts a good at least 5 minutes, is like all a POV shot, to the point where I was thinking, is this whole thing going to be in POV? Because it's going for a while. But because it spends so much time in POV, the first time it cuts to a different shot, it feels like, whoa, that was like a jump scare. Like we're on a new shot. And it's a similar thing as well, actually. I won't spoil what it is, but there's another thing where it just cuts to something, and it's so different from anything else you've seen throughout the movie, because we've been in just like the same hallways, looking at the same things, the same person, that when it cuts to this other thing, I'm just like, whoa, it was like a jump scare. Even though nothing, it wasn't a typical jump scare, nothing scary's on the screen, there's no loud noise or anything, but it felt big, like a big deal. It's important that we've cut to something completely different. So I liked the way that it kind of like got me almost comfortable with its formula, and then jolted me with like, no, we're doing something different now. Like, you have to keep up. So I appreciate that.
For sure. Yeah. So a big question I have for you is, and something we talk about a lot are, these movies that have these like built-in rules to them. So I wanted to get your take on, I mean, this one has like a very clear set of rules, like very early on from the start. But what's your take? Did you like the rules? Do you think they were fair, nice and clear, or did it felt like they were ever kind of like cheating or anything?
I like the rules. I think they're easy to understand. I think they stick to them pretty well. I don't think there's ever like an outright cheat. The only time there's even an exception is one thing, but it's kind of like, it does maybe leave you opening for the interpretation of, okay, what counts as an anomaly a little bit, but that's part of the, the puzzle, I suppose, is like what counts as an anomaly. So
yeah, there is, we might be talking about the same part, but yeah, there's one instance where something happens and I got like frustrated, because I was like, wait a minute, like, is this something that the hallway or whatever is doing, or is this something that's like actually happening? And then if that case, does that count or not? And then I think it's justified in the movie, but at the same time, like I was feeling with the character being like, oh, like I'd be so pissed, because I'd like, oh, come on, like, does this count? what I think is kind of interesting here is, and again, we've talked about this before with other movies where we, like when there's like a certain set of rules, it kind of makes it fun. But usually the fun is establishing the rules and then trying to find the ways to kind of subvert them. With this one, it's like, oh no, there's no subverting. It's just like, trying to follow them as best you can.
Although one thing I did like, and this is something that I think I'm right about. I mean, people can correct me if I'm wrong, but the same anomaly would never repeat, right? As long as it's one that he's caught and he's correctly identified it. It would repeat. See, if he's like missed an anomaly and he gets it wrong, it will repeat later at some point. But as long as he has identified it and made the right choice, it never repeats.
Interesting. Okay. I guess I didn't think about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm right about that. It would never repeat one as if he's noticed it.
Yeah. Well, I definitely agree that they didn't repeat anything if he noticed it. But I guess I never thought though, like if it's something he missed. If they would do it again. But I mean, maybe if he missed it, me as the audience didn't notice it either, so it might be hard to tell. But that might be a fun thing on a rewatch to like.
No, there's one or two that are actually very obvious that repeat, and the first time he doesn't get it because he doesn't really understand the rules when the first time they happen, but then they happen again, and he's like, okay, you understand what he's supposed to do now.
Yeah. I would be like so frustrated. Like all I kept thinking of like as I was watching this is like, okay, like I wonder how small an anomaly can be, because like I was just thinking like, oh, what if you're like, looking at one of the posters or whatever, and like there's like just two numbers that are like flipped around or something. Like how much of an eye for detail do you have to have? And
well, let's not spoil how small they can be.
I would say like if I was in this situation, that would just be driving me crazy, because I would just like, I feel like I'd be studying everything for like an hour, being like, okay, this looks right. I think this is good.
There is one that I thought was especially evilly sneaky, and it's not a cheat. Like it's completely fair, but I was like, oh yeah, that would have been like, I may not have noticed that one, and I'd be very upset by it. But it's completely fair, so I can't argue with it. So, yeah, I mean, I think the pacing's surprisingly good, given that you think it might be quite repetitive, given that it is just like basically the same location over and over and over again. But that kind of builds in its own, like, almost mechanic of like, okay, we know the location, so we're looking for the differences, and we're almost like, it's almost like a musical piece, right? Where you start to like anticipate the chorus again, where you're like, okay, we go around the corner and we're back, because especially since early on it would play the same little creepy couple of notes every time the loop started again. It's like the
I like that. And I even liked in the like at the start of the movie too, the kind of like the faster paced like drum kind of music they're playing.
Oh yeah,
was cool.
I think it was supposed to be what he was listening to on his earphones. It almost sounded like the backing track of like a Final Fantasy like
I can
Eerie
see that,
or something like that. Yeah,
it's like loud fanfare kind of stuff, but then it works well with like once you kind of get out of that opening, and then it cuts to like kind of the more vibey music you hear throughout the whole thing. I thought that was well done.
Yeah, sounds good, looks good. Barring one or two moments of CG that aren't super great. Premise is fun. Yeah, it's really just a couple of things where maybe I think again, it's tough to talk about, but just stuff in the third act I think maybe is a little underwhelming. And I don't even mean the very ending, actually. I think the very ending is perfectly solid. It's more just some of the I don't want to spoil it. I can't really talk about any of it without spoiling it, so I'm just going to have to leave it there. But but still good. I would still recommend it. I think it is worth going in without spoilers if you haven't seen it. But we will probably jump into spoilers about now.
After watching it, do you have any interest in the game at all, or?
Oh, that's a good question. I didn't think about it. I guess I'd be curious. I don't know if I'm like desperate to try it, but I think I'd be curious to give it a go, I suppose.
Yeah, it's probably one of those things where I should look up what systems it's on, and then maybe like put it on a wish list, and then if it's like ever cheap, maybe give it a go.
Yeah.
But yeah, even though I did like the movie, I wasn't like, oh man, I gotta go download the game right away.
I mean, it's $3.39 in UK money on Steam.
Okay.
And it is, I think it's on PlayStation as well. So it's a pretty cheap game as well. If you do want to give it a whirl.
Yeah, I can't really argue with when stuff is like that cheap. It's like, yeah, roll the dice on it.
Yeah, you could spend more getting like a snack, never mind like a lunch,
Right.
honestly, than that. So yeah, spoilers then for Exit 8. You have been warned. We're going to get into it. I do love the opening. Obviously, there's the very first part, which is like there's a guy yelling at a mum with a baby on the subway, and this guy's just been an asshole and yelling, "Do something, it's your baby," and something to that effect. But it's all POV from the main character, who is simply credited as the Lost Man. And he is just sort of looking down at his phone, he's looking over, he's looking at his reflection, he's listening to his music, and he doesn't do anything, it's just kind of awkward. But he does get a call from a girl who's got like a cat with her in her little display photo, but he declines the call. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. That's almost like Unfriended style storytelling, where I'm like, okay, that just told us something about how he feels about her right now, which is weird because she seemed very pleasant in the photo, but he's clearly not wanting to talk to her. So then she phones again, and I love the sound design here because, like you said, that upbeat track that he's listening to is playing, and as soon as the phone rings, it like cuts off, because that's what happens if you're listening to music and like you get a phone call. So it's like, oh, it's like a jolt to the system, and you feel it. And he eventually answers it, and it sets up kind of the core theme of the movie, which is she reveals that even though they've already broken up, so this is his ex-girlfriend, she is pregnant, she's at the hospital, and she wants to hear kind of what his decision would be, and that kind of sets us up for the movie. And it's as he's talking to her, obviously gets bumped into, he drops his phone, he loses connection, he starts not being able to hear her properly, and by the time he's done fiddling with that, he's not even realised that he's already in the loop, right? He's already in this section of the hallway that just starts to loop around on itself. This one man walks past him, which is part of the loop, but that's it, he's in it, and that's the opening. And I love when it cuts to the sign that says Exit 8. That's the first time it cuts away from the POV shot, and it's like the title screen for the movie. It's like, hey, here's the title, he's in this loop now, boom, here we go.
Yeah, I liked all of this as well, and then it's I really liked when they cut from his POV, because even though I thought the scene was well done, but like part of me was kind of like, oh, is like the whole movie gonna be like this? Like it's a choice. I don't know how it could be, but I actually do like that like they set it up, and then they cut to him, and then like you're saying, they cut to the Exit 8, and then you see like him for the first time, or outside of like reflections and stuff, and then they have the character named the Lost Man come up, which sounded very intriguing.
Yeah, it made me think it was going to be an anthology, because it felt like the title of the first story almost.
Yeah,
which obviously there's a part in the middle where it kind of feels like it's going to be a second story to an extent, but not really. We'll get into it, but not really.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I like that idea of seeing different characters and stuff, and the way it converges later on. But now I already know what the answer is going to be, but I'll ask it anyway. Did you care at all, like, for the fact that we never really find out what this thing is, or there's never really any answers for like what's going on?
Oh no, I mean this is this is Silent Hill logic. This is like, honestly, like by the end of the movie, I think it's almost clear that this is all just a representation of him thinking about his decision in his mind, and it's like he's went to a place like Silent Hill where it's just to sort of go through like some sort of like inner purgatory, and then at the end he comes out and like he's made a decision. Like that I think that's what the whole movie is pretty much.
No, I mean, I think that's fine. Or like, I mean, that's like a as much of an explanation as you need. I can just imagine like some people watching this and being like, oh, what the hell? Like, they don't explain anything. Like, what is this thing, or blah blah blah. And it's like, you don't really need that answers for everything, especially when something is like engrossing or captivating you, like what's important is the journey they're going on. Like, you don't really need
Yeah.
a scene where he gets out and then looks up on his phone, like, haunted subway stations, and like there's a whole big like scene of someone explaining something. Like, you don't need anything like that.
I imagine you gave these people who would complain about that the exact same movie, but at the end there was just like after it cut to the credits, instead of going straight to the credits, a wall of text appeared, just giving like a very point blank Wikipedia entry explanation, just to satisfy them. Like, here's what happened, here's what's going on. Shut up.
Yeah. In Japan, there are over 20 cursed subway stations that often take their victims to blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But then, you know what, though? If they explained everything, then we couldn't get YouTube videos with, like, a guy with question marks over his head saying, like, Exit 8 explained?
Yeah. See, now I'm tempted, Tim, to put question marks all over our thumbnail. Now that you've said that. Exit 8 explained. Kinda, sorta, maybe a little bit.
I mean, there's definitely, there's very valid, like, YouTube criticisms for, things that maybe might be more open-ended and stuff, but it just always makes me laugh when it's like
a Marvel movie.
Don't need, like, the ending of Spider-Man Brand New Day explained, like, I mean, I think we got it. Like, I know media literacy is not always the best as it used to be, but some stuff is pretty easy to understand.
Yes. We're going to talk about the end of the Transformers movie, like it's the end of a David Lynch movie, and like sit and theorize about it. So I like as well the progression at the start of this, right? Because he doesn't realize that he's trapped in some loop at first, right? Because he's paying attention to his phone or whatever. It's not until he realizes that obviously it cuts to the sign and whatnot. But even after that, he's not like immediately freaking out. He just sort of like walks an extra couple times, and it's like it goes through a loop, and he sees it again, and he's like, "Oh, that's weird. I guess I'll go again. This is still weird."
And also, though, it's shot really well because as he's moving, it's very gradual because he's going past like lots of people, and then it just gets like less and less and less until he's actually in the hallway. And then what's notable is there's always a man that's walking like on like the other side of the hallway, and when he doesn't know that that's what he's in at first, he doesn't notice it, and then but like us as an audience is starting to notice it, and then we start seeing the same guy like again and again, and it's a nice like way of us like getting it, quite before the character does.
Which makes sense. He's got a big thing on his mind that he's just, he's had a bombshell dropped on him. But like, I like it because like he starts like speeding up as he's starting to get more freaked out that this is like looping around and around, and he's saying the same person. And ultimately, of course, when he does try and kind of stop like that, the guy, right, the walking man, as he ends up being titled later on, like he's like right behind him, just kind of smelling at him. This is one of the examples I was bringing up of this one repeats. Like this happens again once he understands the rules of the anomalies, which basically is next to the thing that says. So basically, the corner right before he turns round in to the main Exit 8 hallway, there's a thing saying level 0, right? And next to that, there's like basically the rules written out. It's literally just a sign saying, watch out for anomalies. If you see an anomaly, turn back. Go back the way you came. If you don't see any anomalies, then continue forward. And no matter which way he goes, when he goes around a corner, he'll basically just go into the same layout as it always is. So it's not like he's going back through an area when he goes back. It's like, and once he's around the corner, it's like he's just went forward again. Except if he's made the right choice, it'll go from level 0 to level 1. But if he made the wrong choice, it'll go back to 0 no matter how far he got. And the idea being is that 8's the final one. 8's the one where you can get out of this loop. So that sets up the rules nice and simple. And it does mean that there's stakes every single time. Because if he gets it right, it doesn't matter which way he gets it wrong. If there's an anomaly and he doesn't notice it and he goes forward, that's wrong, back to level 0. If there isn't an anomaly, but he somehow convinces himself that something's changed and he goes back the way, that also is a mistake and sets him back to 0.
Very easy premise, but very effective and fun to watch. And then again, like it really is devastating when he's making progress and then makes a mistake, and you go back and you see you're back at level 0, and obviously the character is very frustrated, but like as an audience member too, you're like, man, like it's like again very effective and getting you to also feel like you're in on the stakes.
Yeah, I think it's even the guy stopping and smelling behind him and makes him run back the way, and that like, he sort of accidentally gets to level 1 without realizing what the rules are yet, and then he kind of starts to figure it out because of that.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess, obviously it's going to be impossible to remember the order of all the anomalies and all the times he gets things right or wrong. We're never going to do that. But we can talk about the specific, runs where it's like, okay, this anomaly was fun for this reason or that reason.
Yeah. I like that, one of the first things he does is like tries to take pictures of everything, because I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like, because that's just an easy way to, check your, how things should be. And then like immediately when he gets to the next floor or whatever, he looks at his phone and like everything is just like all like weirdly messed up and stuff. And I was like, I wonder if like they consider that cheating or something.
Yes. As if there's some like government body deciding how this works. Yeah. Now, I mean, obviously one of the more wacky ones early on is the blood dripping from the ceiling, but it's like, okay, that's a clear one that's an anomaly, but he's having to look very closely in other times. One of the earlier creepy ones is that everything seems the same, except the eyes of all the people on the posters are all following him left to right.
That was probably my favorite one, because I like that one was like kind of weird and creepy, but it wasn't as like over the top as some of the other ones you see. And again, it had a nice progression, because I was watching it and I was kind of like, did that just move slightly?
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I think I saw it move, but I'm not sure. But then like by the time he gets to the end, like the eyes are like full on like blinking and following him. So it's like, oh yeah, definitely. And then it kind of gets to like a funny point where like after he's been doing this for a while, like stuff like that should really freak you out, but like it's kind of funny the way like something will happen and it'll just be like, okay, anomaly, and he like just turns back, whereas like if you were seeing that out of nowhere, like you'd be like scared shitless. You're like, what is going on? But instead it's just like, okay, here we go, another anomaly.
And that one works really well in the context of, because I was saying some of the ones that are super over the top or like just turn away immediately. Why are you even getting closer to it? This one works though, because it's like a slow realization and it's just kind of unsettling. It's not like he feels he's in danger. It's just like, okay, I'm going to say that's an anomaly, and I'm going, because some of them are really obvious. Like he goes past the lockers, which are around the corner, and like a baby starts crying in one of them, and I'm like, well, that's an anomaly. But he goes to open the door anyway, and I'm like, why bother? It's an anomaly. Just go back. It's fine.
Yeah, that did kind of get to a point where like I was laughing at it, because I mean, yeah, that one isn't even as crazy as like some of the other ones get, where it's just like, yeah, like by the end of the movie, like he'll go and there'll be like a huge alarm sounding, and I'm just like, turn back now. What are you doing?
Yeah. Because at least there's one where the lights turn off, and I at least thought, okay, maybe the idea here is he gets a little bit lost in the sense that he's not sure which direction he's going in. So he knows he needs to go back, but maybe he got turned around and he's like, oh shit, what way am I supposed to go right now? So that could have been like an interesting way to shake that up a little bit.
Yeah, I was feeling that one, because I was like, oh crap, like if he like is trying to turn around but then gets like lost and accidentally messes it up, like that's gonna like frustrate me so much.
Yeah, because obviously this first sort of batch, right, the first half hour or so, there's a few other ones, but he gets to a point where he's gotten to level 5 successfully, and it's like, oh shit, that's over halfway, things are going well, and he's walking down the corridor, and his phone rings, and I'm like, anomaly, don't fall for it. But it's his ex-girlfriend to talk about the baby. And this is actually the second time I said that it cuts to something, because it cuts to her face. Like, and you think she's in the hospital or whatever. Maybe she's not. This is not really hard necessarily. It's just like, this place's recreation of it. But like, it cuts to her face in a location, and you're like, shit. That feels like a big deal. We've never cut away to anyone else. And then, of course, the reveal, like, at the end of the phone call is that she was actually just standing around the corner, and, like, it was just so out of focus, the background, that you couldn't tell it was in this location. And, like, okay, that was a neat little trick.
Yeah. This kind of, like, drove me mad, too, because, like, I was like, oh, you bastards. Like, that is, like, I was thinking it was definitely an anomaly, but at the same time, I was like, but I understand the character...
Yeah, like, not immediately.
It,
like, I understand why he's like not at the point where he's like, no, anything they try and show me is an anomaly, right? He just thinks he's getting to talk to her.
and it's like it like that's the only time where like it felt like, I don't know, like if this is a game or whatever, like it feels like a little unfair because like, all right, like you didn't say you could like manipulate stuff like on me, you know, like this isn't something that's like in the hallway, like yeah, but it's like, oh, I guess yeah, just anything, you know, that is not different can be considered that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea of like a loved one talking to him and like messing with his head is probably a good idea. This is probably the start of the slippery slope, though, of some of them being a bit too big and bombastic, where it's like not something subtle, because I like the subtle ones more. But
I agree, yeah.
you know, he goes forward, it resets to 0 because he's not accepted that as an anomaly, and it's like shit. And when he actually gets to like the next one, it's an anomaly again because everything looks really yellow, like it's like really yellow lighting. So it's like that's the anomaly, is that the lighting's different. But he just starts like, this is where he has like a panic attack and just starts like throwing his bag around and like just doesn't care anymore. And it's like he's having a bit. He vomits in the corner and he just, you know, he has a breakdown. Understandably, he's freaking out. But of course, I'm like, get back on your feet, start again. You know the rules. Let's get going. And it does make sense that as you go higher up in the levels, that in theory the anomalies are going to get more challenging or more psychologically like subversive, or you know, whatever it could be. But yeah. But that's kind of marks the end of the first like section, because it's just after this I think we transition to some new stuff.
Walking Man.
Yeah, well, we see the kid first, and
that was kind of funny when he just sees the kid and he's like, "Huh, well, that's an anomaly." And so he turns around.
Yeah. He walks back and then it resets him to 0, and he's like, "What the hell? There's a kid!" But then the kid comes running around the corner, and it's like, "Oh, no, he's just here. Like, is there multiple people lost in here?" And he stumbled into them. That was actually making me really think a cube, because it was like finding someone else in one of the other cubes. Yeah. I was like, oh, this is another person down here. I don't think that's actually what it is, but we'll get to theories later when we get to like, you know, talking about the thing as a whole. But yeah, so he tries to talk to the kid, and the man who keeps walking down every loop walks. And I think this is actually a really exciting moment, because the camera keeps following the walking man round the corner, and I'm like, wait, we're following him. We're leaving our character and we're following the creepy walking man. What's going on with this? And sure enough, once he goes round a corner or two, he kind of like drops the robotic look that he's always had and turns into a real character. And I'm like, and then it comes up saying, you know, the walking man. And I'm like, oh shit. So this creepy guy who's been in all these loops is like, at least at this point, I'm thinking, oh, is he a previous victim who got trapped down here forever? So now he's just part of someone else's loop or something like that, you know?
Yeah. I get really excited because, like, again, I was, you know, it was probably around this time where, like, I was enjoying the movie, but I was kind of thinking, like, all right, but, like, how much can we do this? Like, is it going to start getting stale or whatever? And then I think, you know, cutting into this guy's story actually really helped me, like, perk up again, be like, oh, okay, this is interesting. Like, I want to see, especially since, you know, we've seen him so much at this point, but, like, I never really thought of him as being like an actual person. Like, I thought it was just something that, you know, was created here or whatever. And then I forget when the Lost Man says it, if it was before or after we hear his story, but he says, you know, to the boy, because I think the boy's like reach out to him, he says like, oh, he's not like a human anymore, which I thought is very fascinating. Like, oh, if you fail so many times, or I guess we see at the end of this guy's story that he, you know, tries to go into an anomaly that he's not supposed to. Like, yeah, does that reach a point where if you do that, like, you're just stuck here forever now as like, you know, a construct of this place, which is probably maybe the scariest thing to think about, that, you know, if you're there.
Yeah, during this part, I was thinking about a lot of these things. My interpretation, having watched the whole movie, is none of this. But yeah, like at the time, I was definitely thinking all this. So yeah, we follow him, and it's interesting, or it's the right choice, I think, that, you know, we don't join him on his first loop. We join him where he already knows the rules and he's already, you know, but I like that he's not doing it the same way as the Lost Man. The Walking Man is he's going into a new loop and he's already at level 4 or 5. He's like saying, all right, poster 1, poster 2, poster 3. He's not saying, whereas the Lost Man would be like, he would be saying what's on the poster. He's like, okay, dentist poster, you know, lawyer poster, you know, this poster, whatever. So I like that his phrasing was a little bit different. He was trying to figure things out, but it seems like he'd also run into this kid, because we're seeing him with this kid, and the kid's, And at one point, because we get to a point quite quickly actually, where after like 2 loops, I think it is, he makes a mistake, but right before he makes the mistake, you can see the kid staring at something, and I actually noticed what it was. It's pretty subtle, but it's basically the handle, the doorknob on one of the doors that's on the right side of the corridor. The handle's in the middle of the door instead of where it should be at the side. And
right, yeah.
that's one that repeats obviously for the Lost Man later, so we kind of see that one coming. But like, I was like, oh, I spotted that. The kid had noticed this and was trying to warn him, but he just wasn't paying attention to him, which fits into the themes which we'll talk about in a bit.
I think it's interesting too because like he ends up kind of having like his own version of like I guess him for the Lost Man. Like instead they have like looks like a schoolgirl or something that's like walking through their corridor.
Yeah, and it has just like, I mean, it's not like super like in your face, but there's just like a little bit of like a flirtation, which is obviously inappropriate because he's like a middle-aged man, and this is a. Yeah. But it's weird though because this schoolgirl is his version of the walking man. Like she's in all of his lips, so we've seen her walk past a couple times, and then the anomaly version of her is where she stops and starts talking to him, and she starts like just saying, "Oh, do you think we're in hell? Do you think are you guilty of anything right now? Are you feeling guilty?" And he sort of stops and thinks about it, and then she laughs and says, "Oh, I'm just kidding. We're just in some train station like loop or whatever." And it's like, "Oh, very good." Yeah. And it's like, but then she starts like getting kind of creepy, and he ends up making mistakes. But the thing is, I'll come back and talk about this scene a little bit again when I'm interpreting the whole movie, because there's a few things here that really feed into the whole overall kind of like theories about what's going on. But he basically gets to the point where he's at like level 6 again, and he's with the kid, he's dragging the kid with him, and they go around the corner, and despite the fact that he was only at 6, right, he wasn't at 8, he walks around the corner and the hallway is changed, where there's stairs at the end, and it literally just says exit 8, arrow this way, and he's like, "Oh, I've done it," and I'm like, whoa. You were on 6. This is clearly an anomaly. This is a trick. This is not the exit. You need to turn back. And the kid's clearly thinking the same thing, because the kid tries to hold on to his hand, and he gets to the stairs. The kid's like holding back, and he won't go with him. So eventually, the man just pulls away so tight that the kid falls and gets the scrape in his face, which actually kind of confirms that this is all taking place before the kid runs into the main character, the Lost Man. And the walkie man just says, "I'm not guilty of anything. I'm not guilty of anything," and he runs up the stairs into the light. And that's like the end of his story. I wouldn't say it's the last time we see him technically, because we see him again in the loops, being the walking man again for Lost Man stuff. But it's like, okay, that you interpret it in the moment seemingly as, oh, that's why he's trapped down here forever, is because he fell for this trick, and it's not actually the exit. But yeah, it's like, okay, that was a fun little diversion, getting these other characters for 15 minutes or whatever it was, and we do come back round to like the moment where the kid met, because we see it from the kid's perspective, where the kid's wandering back on his own, and we just see the Lost Man come out and be like, "Oh, there's a kid here, anomaly," and he walks by. Like, okay, we're linking the stories up. We've now established where this all fits together for them down here.
And then the kid gets his little title card or whatever, which I think they just refer to him as the boy.
Yes,
which
I'm sure you loved.
I was like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing.
You think it was an intentional reference to Brahms, do you, Tim?
Of course. But I like yeah, I think it's an interesting way to kind of mix it up, like having this little diversion and then going back to the boy, but then it works because like the boy doesn't feel like its own separate thing, because it his story ends up being like tied into the Lost Man's. I feel like, but it's just like a nice way to break everything up.
Yeah, it's basically just the Lost Man's story again, because he's the one that's really driving everything, but it's just the kid's here now, so it feels different again. So it's like, okay, this is how you sort of separate the movie out a little bit, make it feel like it's got a bit of a structure, which is cool. And obviously here at this point, I'm thinking, all right, he has to work with a kid, and this is going to he's basically going to have to kind of be a father figure for a little bit and take care of him, and you can see how this fits into the themes of him choosing whether or not he wants to be a father or run away from it, that kind of thing. It's funny, I was a little bit worried, and I have seen some people online say this movie's a little like they think it may be anti-abortion, and I don't actually think that's true in this case, right? Yeah. Well, and not to be, you're laughing, but I remember we did that movie years ago now, but the one with the alligator, the pool, right? Which was a fun little creature feature, but it did kind of have a little bit of an anti-abortion like sentiment in its messaging.
Sure.
So I like, and that wasn't Japanese. That was that Taiwan? I thought I want to say. I can't remember. It's been a while.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. But that did have kind of like a little bit of a message, because it was all about the girlfriend wants to have a baby and he doesn't, and the whole journey was like him coming to accept that he shouldn't be asking for that. This isn't that though. This is more about whether or not he'll abandon like the potential child that'll come no matter what, because he's not the one making the decision for that.
What's really funny about the pool is I'd much more remembered all of the Pizza Hut product placement more than the all this stuff about having kids and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean that was the emotional through line of that movie, and it was still kind of a fun movie. Like it was actually a pretty decent little creature feature, but it was like it was something we noted when we reviewed it, even though you've completely forgotten about it.
Yeah, no, I mean that's I'm laughing because like I don't know, it's obviously you can interpret whatever you want, like it's fine, but that was just like that was never like a thought that like in my head of being like, oh, well, clearly this movie's trying to have a message about abortion. Like I mean maybe that very much was something on their minds or something, but yeah, it just kind of made me laugh because like, oh, I didn't think about that at all.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't actually think it is. It feels more to me, it's about him not being able to decide what he wants. He's very, because even the opening of the movie is him not intervening when he sees someone being cruel to this mother with a baby, and obviously it relates because it's a baby and a mother to like what he's going through, but it's still kind of this idea of him not committing to things, and that's really more what it's about than anything else. Yeah,
I think that opening scene is totally fine, and I think there's a nice like payoff for that in the end or something. I don't know, I think these are like definitely very valid themes and stories to tell. I don't know, it's just something for me, and again probably because I have several kids, but I'm just like I really don't need to see like this kind of like story anymore about someone struggling about whether or not to accept this. Like I don't know, it's just not something that it necessarily does much for me, and I don't think it's necessarily like egregiously bad in this movie or anything, but it's just like when they would kind of start going back to that well, I'd just be like, all right, and I don't really need this.
Yeah, I mean, I get that it's not clicking for you, and I'm not saying it particularly clicks for me, but it's obviously very different in the sense that, like, yeah, you've got kids, but you've got kids, in a marriage where you plan to have kids, which is a little bit different to, like, oh, by the way, someone you're not even in a relationship with's pregnant now, and like, do you want to like take on that responsibility? It's a little bit different. It's more of a surprise, I suppose.
I'm just imagining like the sperm traveling like to the egg and just like in this endless loop, and like the sperm has to like look for all these anomalies. Like hey, that's like something they could do for a sequel.
For a sequel, a cartoon sperm movie. All right. I mean, don't get me wrong, I get what you're saying though about this being kind of maybe a bit of a trope at this point, but they have to wrap the movie around something, and I think it's a solid enough that's idea for what to do it with. It's
a small nitpick for me. Like I'm not saying it's something that I'm like, oh, this tanks the movie for me. It's just like one of those things that I'm like, I don't necessarily care that much about this kind of stuff, but
but
it's fine.
The difference between him and the walking man though is that the lost man does actually start paying attention to stuff that the kid's looking at, because the kid looks again at this doorknob that's in the wrong place, and he's like, wait a minute, you're right, this is an anomaly, we'll go back, and then that ends up being right, and he's like, okay, I'm going to start paying attention to this kid, and it's actually the kid who notices the one that's I think really sneaky, which is that on the exit 8 sign, the 8's upside down. And I'm like, oh, that's fiendish, because it's valid. it's right. Like, it is upside down
Yeah.
if you look at it properly, but that's a very easy one to miss. That's so easy to miss.
Yeah, those are ones that would like just drive me crazy. Like once you like find it, I'd be like, oh, you assholes.
Yeah, you son of a bitch. Or
whoever's doing this.
yeah, in his case, it's probably his inner psyche that's doing it. So he's like, oh, I'm such a dick. I'm such a dick to myself. What am I doing? So yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, some of the more wild ones are the lights going off, and and the lights going off is fine. I like that because again, it could mix him up as to where to go. And then you've got like, you know, the just the only light he's got is his phone, and he's kind of shining it on the man walking by, and that's kind of creepy. And then finding the kid. When it gets to the CG kind of rats that have like noses and eyeballs on their backs, I was like, okay, I don't know what we're doing here.
Like, in theory, I think this is like a cool visual. Like, I already don't like rats. I think they're gross and kind of creepy. But then, yeah, like you're saying, they each kind of have like, one has an ear, one has an eye, and one has a mouth, and then that in of itself is kind of weird. But then I like the extra mile of like, oh no, like they're gonna kind of form a face together. It's something that I think sounds cool in theory, but then when you're actually watching it and the CGI of it all, it's like, I don't know if this is working that well.
I think for me, it's just so overly wild and like spectacular that I just don't think it fits with all the other things the movie's been doing. It feels so out of place compared to everything else.
It would have been funny if he just like kept walking and the kid had be like, no, that is an anomaly. Like, there's usually not rats with appendages here.
Well, I was thinking it was just the lights. So, the lights turned off. That's an anomaly, right?
Yeah.
Let's turn around.
Oh, yeah.
Nice and simple.
Yeah. Like, you mentioned this before, but yeah, whenever like stuff like that happens, and I get that it's a movie, so you want to see like the weird stuff and everything. But yeah, like stuff like that, or yeah, when, you know, a door slowly opens and like they inspect it, it's like, no, you already know this is an anomaly. Just turn around.
Yeah.
There's not going to be anything good by looking in there or whatever.
Yeah, that was the next one I was going to bring up, is one of the doors in the middle just kind of opens, and he like opens it fully and looks in, and I'm like, why are you looking in? Just go around, go back. You've already clarified this is an anomaly. And it ends up just being like a long dark passage, and at the very end he can see himself on the train from the start of the movie, which is kind of furthering this idea of it really just been kind of in his head. Also, in between a couple of these, maybe after the dark part, I can't really remember, but like they actually take a rest at the part that says they're on the next level, and they talk, and it's the first time the kid speaks, I think. He's been silent up until that point, and you know, he's asking, oh, how'd you get lost down here? Is it, oh, I ran away from my mom, I wanted her to find me, and he reveals that he doesn't know who his dad is, and then the lost man says, oh, me too. I also don't know who my father is. And it's like, okay, that kind of fits into why maybe he's got dad issues about being a father, because he didn't have one that was reliable or just there at all. So he feels like he's destined to make the same mistakes, you know, that usual kind of thing.
And then I don't think we mentioned it too, but I'm pretty sure during the Walking Man segment, I feel like he mentioned that he has like kids and stuff that he needs to get back to.
Specifically a son. He said, "Oh, I'm supposed to see my son, and you know, I'm not making it because I'm trapped in here," kind of thing. Yeah.
So it's kind of like, you know, basically like all different like stages of like a father-son relationship.
Which, you know, just to jump to this, right? I'm pretty sure the Walking Man is just an older version of the Lost Man. It's confirmed that the kid is his future son. Like, you know, like this is like, these are all connected to the point where everyone else is connected, where I'm convinced that the teenage girl who was in the Walking Man segment might be the young version of like his ex-girlfriend or the mother of the kid or something like that, right? You know, just because again we're just dealing with different ages of the same person. Now, nothing in the movie confirms all of this except the kid. The kid's definitely his son, right? That is absolutely 100% confirmed.
Yeah.
But everything else is just like, okay, it's just there for interpretation. But I'm kind of reading it that way at a certain point because everything thematically is just linking up. And I was almost looking at the Walking Man as like, this is what you could become if you could just become this corporate looking guy who, like, you know, abandons the idea of the child and runs away into the light and is trapped in that endless loop forever of, you know, the loop representing the soulless working life with no happiness kind of thing. But where it kind of fell apart. Well, not fell apart. That's a bit strong. But like, I think when it went into the hallway where the alarm goes off, like the air raid silent. Oh, actually, I say air raid. That's what it sounded like to me at first, but I guess it's Japan. It makes more sense of it's a tsunami warning of sorts. And then they see the water coming down from the end, and like, shit, we have to turn around, and it's all in slow motion, and it's a big character moment because the lost man holds up the kid to save him and gets swept away. So it's shown that he's been selfless and he's looking out for the kid above his own interests. So that's like, hey, that's the big character beat. The fact that after that it goes into like it's not even a memory because it's the future, but it's like basically like a vision at the beach of him and his ex and like the kids off in the distance, like playing in the shore. And this is where it confirms, hey, this kid's like his future son, and she's talking about him making his choice and all that. This is where it laid it on so thick, and even just the idea that we're going to like a sort of fantasy dream sequence kind of thing, I didn't like any of that. I didn't like that choice, right? I get that it confirms a couple of important things, but it felt tonally just so ripped away from the vibe of the rest of the movie for me.
No, I mean, I agree with that. I will say, like, it did look good, like when they do that, like overhead shot or whatever of the, the like beach and the water. Like I thought like, oh, this is like a really good looking shot. But yeah, it does take you out of the movie. I didn't necessarily need that.
Yeah.
And then and again, like I'm making this complaint a lot too, but this feels like it could have just been so easily avoided, because once you hear that siren, just turn around. Like, you don't need to wait to see what it's gonna be. Yeah,
I agree completely. It's just the thing where it comes back and the kid's okay, surrounded by debris. He walks forward and goes. I think goes around another loop maybe, but then we actually pull back and the kid goes away. And it turns out the lost man's still okay. Like, he's still walking forward and he's still going through the last loop or whatever to get to the exit. And he does go through. Forgive me, I don't remember if the last loop was an anomaly or not, and if it was, what the anomaly was. I don't remember.
I don't remember either. And then, but also, we skipped the part where the boy thinks he sees his mom, and like he has to like drag him away.
Yeah, like that's kind of the boys getting tricked by seeing that the mom, and I even thought the mom looked like, because this was before the beach dream part, and I even thought, oh, she looks kind of like the ex-girlfriend, but we never got like a good long look at her, so I wasn't 100% sure, but I'm like, she seems like she could be the same woman. And then obviously, the way everything else plays out, it feels like, that's probably right.
Like, I mean, granted, I was watching this a little late last night when I was kind of sleepy, so maybe that's why. But I do think that is, kind of a ding that, like, I don't really remember, like, the last, loop or whatever, because it feels like that should be something that's, like, a bit more important. Like, I remember it basically ends with, him back on the train and, again, seeing the guy I mean, yelling, but...
Well, so he goes through the last loop, correctly guesses whatever one it is. Like I say, I think the vibe of the moment is good because he's kind of so defeated and he's just walking kind of slowly that it just kind of works. I think the atmosphere is good there, even if I don't remember the exact thing. I think it might even be just not an anomaly, the last one. Okay, but he walks forward, because that would explain why we can't really remember. It's because nothing notable. It was just kind of like, hey, no, this one's as it seems, and it ends up being stairs going down. And as he's going down, you hear like people in the distance, and he puts his earphones back in, and he calls the ex-girlfriend as he's going towards the train, and he says that, because she says, hey, have you made a choice? And he's like, I'm on my way. So he doesn't make the choice, but he says he's coming to like do it in person. And he gets on the train, and there's kind of like, the ending kind of hints at, and I think some people will read it this way, that he's trapped in a never-ending loop, because it's what the movie started with. It's, it's the guy on the train being angry at the mom. But I think the final second kind of reveals, like, no, he's not stuck in an endless loop. This is all looping back around to him making a different choice, because right at the last second, he doesn't stay in position. He walks out to the side as if he's going to go and intervene and do something about it. That's the ending.
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be kind of the idea, that it's like, maybe he is in a loop, but he's breaking it by making the right choice, whereas, before he... just didn't do anything, and this time it Yeah, at
Yeah.
least the indication is that he's gonna defend the mom.
Yeah, I mean,
In some way.
yeah, and it's a very upbeat cut to title as well. It kind of feels like a triumphant cut to title. So I think the implication is absolutely that this is him breaking out of things, and he gets a second chance to do the right thing here. But like I said, like this whole thing, it feels like this is him just walking around the train station, thinking about this big news he's just got, and ultimately deciding to come and do the right thing. But it's all represented in his head via this loop and via him picturing out the future of what he could be, and that's like who the walking man is, thinking about who his son could be, thinking about if he wants to be there for that and all that. So, and then the tease of the beach thing came early, actually, because the kid gives him a little seashell.
Oh, right.
And that was kind of setting that up a little bit. So, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think obviously this is fairly open to interpretation, but I don't think it's like super like heady. I actually think it's fairly the main themes are fairly straightforward, and I think it doesn't take a lot to get to the idea that no, this is him seeing possibilities of the future, and the idea that he will be trapped in a loop forever if he doesn't make the right choice, and that's what the walking man represents. So. Yeah, it's. I think it all clicks. Like, I think the actual final moment is really good. Like, as much as I'm saying I don't like the beach stuff and like it overly getting a little bit, I don't know, dream quality with some of the stuff towards the end. I think the actual moment of him making the choice to do something different works, because it's like, oh no, that's the arc ending, that's the change. Like, he's making the choice, and that basically tells you that he's probably going to go and do the right thing with the ex-girlfriend and so on. So it's relatively, for a movie of this type with like the ethereal trapped in like some sort of cosmic loop, it's actually a pretty happy ending, because I feel like usually these movies have downer like trapped forever endings, and I don't think this one does. So
no.
Call it a plus.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, the again, there's stuff like we're saying, like right before that definitely I wasn't as crazy about, but this final moment I think works, and
yeah,
it's a nice little capper to the whole thing.
I mean, I think it's really just down to this idea of like, I don't know what else they could have done to get to that emotional crescendo for the final part of the movie, but the decision they made to do this whole, he like, effectively goes unconscious and goes to this dream sequence of the beach of the future, I think that just feels very hokey to me, and feels a lot more like the movie's, I think, really good at feeling creative and like stuck in its established vibes and rules, that I think that just felt like a little bit of this is something from a different type of movie. This feels like something from like a cheesier movie, and I don't think the movie up until that now felt particularly cheesy. So yeah, I think I'd have preferred something that felt a little bit, I don't know, but honestly, even a bit more ambiguous. Like, I don't think I wanted them to confirm this is his kid from the future. I think I'd have preferred the kid disappears and we can just interpret that that's what it probably was, as opposed to, here's a vision of him on the beach with the mom and him, and like, this is all just spelling it out for us almost a little bit too much.
No, I agree. Like, I feel like there's enough kind of hints and stuff beforehand that you can kind of logically come to that conclusion without needing the whole sequence.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd have probably had two ideas if they hadn't spelled it out. I'd have said, yeah, it's probably his kid from the future, or it's himself as a kid.
Yeah.
And he's his own father right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about that a little bit too, like earlier on.
Yeah, but the beach part completely just went, okay, no, it's just his kid from the future.
Yeah.
Right. It actually took away from the room to interpret things, which is, I mean, I guess all information kind of does that to an extent. Like, every movie you watch, every piece of information they give you is something less you can interpret, but that's being pedantic as shit, saying that. But in this case specifically, it makes sense. So, no. But I mean, I still think it's very much worth watching. I think the cool vibes, the cool premise, and most of the creepy scenes, I think, are effectively creepy without just going into tropes, because they're simple, they're subtle, and it's more the building of like, will I ever get out here kind of vibe.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I did think that there was going to be more of that kind of stuff, like more creepy things going on, but there really isn't that many. But it doesn't really need it because it's so effective with, just the tension of, are you gonna make it or is it gonna reset again? Like that is kind of all of the, like, fear that you need. Um, so yeah, it's funny because usually I do kind of like some of the more bombastic, over the top, crazy stuff, but in this, it didn't really need it. If anything, maybe it would have been nice to have like one or two loops with maybe something a bit more subtle and creepy instead of like, some of the big bombastic stuff. But I mean, it's still very effective with what it's doing.
Yeah. And the water flooding down in that one loop is kind of like, oh hey, like we have a little bit more budget than maybe you thought we did, because obviously, like, yeah, they have to make this like one corridor look good, but like that's it for the most part, right? Like most of the movie, they get to just stay in this one set. Like in terms of shooting, this might be relatively easier compared to other movies, just because it's not a lot of other places you have to go. Having said that, I was thinking to myself halfway through, man, like there's so many similar scenes because it's the same loops over and over again that I have to imagine. I mean, they always are, don't get me wrong. Everything's always well labeled, but all I could think was, you have to label all these shots so like carefully for the editor, because because most movies, like you could just look at the shot and say, oh, that's from this scene. But with this movie, like, oh, this shot of him walking down here from the back, oh, that could literally be 18 different scenes in this movie. Which one does it belong to? Well, got to figure it out. So I was like, oh man, they have to label every single shot very carefully. That said, though, I would be curious to find out if they ever swapped any shots. Like if like, oh, we didn't have like a good shot from this angle for this scene, we could just borrow it from this one because nothing will stick out as being different. And they're like, sure, maybe get a little sneaky with it. But no, I think it's a pretty solid movie. Some faults, but I think it was worth watching, and I think I'd be curious to see it again, and I think I'd recommend it to people still, for sure. And I think, come top 10 time, it kind of just depends what the rest of the slate's like, but I don't think it's inconceivable this makes it onto the top 10 2026 by any stretch.
Yeah, it is a very it's been a very good year, so I think top 5 might be hard to crack, but I can see it within the top 10 though.
Yeah, top 5. I mean, because I already know it's definitely not in the top 3. There's already at least 3 that are definitely better. So top 5 might be tough, but I could see it being in the top 10. It just kind of depends on what the rest of the year's like, and what other gems we might discover. But I think it's very likely this ends up somewhere in that top 10. So yeah, I guess all it's left to do is rate X at 8 out of 10. And oh god, it's like the temptation to give it an 8 out of 10 just for the memes is so tempting. But what are we giving X at 8, Tim?
I think it's a very solid 7. Which, it's kind of a shame because I could see it easily, getting to an 8, but it was just, like most of the negative stuff I had was kind of minor, but it's just like a lot, like there's enough of it that adds up to, having to deduct some points from it. Like again, just like simple stuff with, like the not really needing that beach scene, and then, a few things over there where it maybe just isn't quite coming together as much as I hope. But I mean, with that being said, there's still like a lot to like about it, so I'm not, don't want to ding it too much. Like I think it's good. The premise is very intriguing, and I thought they, fulfilled a lot of what they set out to do. And again, like the just, how invested you get in like when they're doing a loop and seeing if it succeeds or fails. Like, like obviously the way it's able to kind of captivate you with that, like, can't go too low. So it's, effective in doing that. It's just a shame that maybe, there's a few things that it didn't quite live up to that, kind of kept it from, reaching that, upper status, but still good.
it's so funny to me how negative this sounds for like a 7, because there's some movies where you would be elated to be like, oh, I enjoyed this quite a bit, I'm going to give it a 7. It's funny that the framing on this one is, oh, it's actually not quite as great as I could see it being, so I'm a little disappointed to give it a 7. It's just weird how that is dependent on like what you thought the potential was based on, not even like before the movie, just like what you thought from the first, I guess, like half of the movie maybe versus what it ended up doing.
Well, I guess that's what it comes down to, is like potential, because sometimes, something has a lot of potential, but then it loses you, so it's like, I'm giving it a 7 or whatever, but it really could have been this. But then, sometimes it's like, oh no, this movie like has no right to be as good as it is. So I'm actually surprised that it's like a 7 or whatever. So,
that's just interesting. Because everything you were saying there is why it's not higher, which inherently sounds like a negative tangent or not tangent, negative tinge, a negative. I don't know what word I was trying to say. It doesn't matter. But like
a negative tinge to it. That makes sense. Yeah.
But I think I'm going to go just a smidge higher and say 7.5. I think like I would love to say it's great. I think it just falls short because of some of the like the more typical emotional stuff and a couple of the overtop stuff like the CG rat things or whatever is just a little bit out of place for me. But everything else, like I like the vibe, I like the premise, I like the character well enough. I thought he at least was a good sort of blank vessel for what the movie was. I think it's good. I think it's a good movie that could have been even better. But what is there is still very compelling, and it is worth recommending. And I think it will really click for some people as well that will love it even more than we did. But it's a solid movie. So
I think if the premise sounds interesting, it's a movie that delivers on like what the premise sounds like. So if it sounds good to you, then definitely check it out. It's on Shudder right now. So if you got Shuds, it's easy to watch.
You're not going to make Shuds happen, Tim. Stop it. So it's funny actually, based on that conversation we just had about like the negativity or positivity surrounding the exact same score. I won't spoil anything, but there's at least a movie or two for Octoberthon this year that we've already recorded where we gave a very enthusiastic 4 out of 10, which sounds weird, but we did. So, it's all relative. It's all relative.
It's true.
So,
especially in that movie.
yeah, for sure. So that is Exit 8. So thank you very much for joining us for that. Next week in the show, it's actually a little bit up in the air right now because there's some new releases coming out. So
don't phrase it that way because people are going to think we're watching Up in the Air.
No, I think they understand English, Tim. I think they got the phrase and how I was using it. But thank you for the injection. No. So, Insidious Out of the Further is out, and there's a good chance that'll be next week. But there's also a chance that a movie that got a limited release a couple of weeks ago might also be available for me, but it's tough to tell right now if I'll have showings. So we may also have the choice of doing Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miyazama, which we do want to check out as well. So it'll be one of those two next week. We can't actually say which one it'll be yet. And if we get to do both of them, then the other one will be the week after, but we might not get to do both. It may just be Insidious. We don't know right now at the time of recording. It's a couple of weeks out. We have no idea. But expect a new theatre release next week. That's all I'll say. But that's the show, everyone. You can support Screams After Midnight, of course, over on Patreon, patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. Helps out a bunch if you do. You get access to the even more stream segments we do most weeks. You get access to the back catalogue of bonus episodes, which are a little bit on the lighter side right now. There should be at least one for October, if nothing else. More on that in a bit. But we have... whole back catalogue. Other shows have bonuses as well on Patreon. Thanks to everyone who already does support us. Is greatly appreciated. Plus, you do get the show a bit a day early as well, if that's of interest to you. But that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We do appreciate it. Keep watching scary movies, and we will see you next time.